Welcome to this overview of Lesson 2. I'm Kevin Keel, an OpenSciEd teacher and facilitator. Lesson 2 has been one of my students' favorite lessons in the past because, at least in their eyes, they're just playing with the musical instruments. I mean, they will be playing with musical instruments, but they're doing it in a way to try to uncover patterns in how things produce a sound. So let's dive into Lesson 2. Remember in our last lesson, students were introduced to the anchor where they saw sound from a speaker causing something nearby to move. We also put together our ideas of how that could happen in our class consensus model. And we have right now a lot of uncertainties or a lot of questions about that phenomenon. So in this lesson, we're going to essentially start at the sound source. What is happening when a speaker or some other sound source produces a sound? So we're going to investigate some musical instruments and the speaker and try to look for patterns in how they produce sound. So this is an investigative lesson that takes 2 days, about 20 minutes of preparation to set up the different stations students are going to investigate the musical instruments at. It is a hands-on investigation, does not require students to use their student devices. And there's a number of slow motion videos that you're going to show in class. The slow motion videos of the instruments and the speaker you're going to show in class. And then there's 2 slow motion videos that students will need access to for their at-home learning. It's a short reading that they're going to be assigned at the end of the lesson. So students will have to have access to those slow motion videos somehow. There's 2 main chunks or components to this lesson, one in day 1, the other in day 2. So in day 1, students notice that there's a pattern in how instruments and the speakers move when they make sound. They notice that when all those things produce a sound, they're vibrating. And in part 2, they're going to move from station to station, just investigating musical instruments. In part 3, they're going to watch slow motion videos of the speaker and the musical instruments, just making further observations. In part 4, they're just sharing out their observations, all noticing that when those things are making sound, they vibrate. In chunk 2 or day 2, then they're going to put all these ideas together in a model to show that when the instruments vibrate, when they move back and forth, they're making a sound. And in part 5, they're going to, you're going to co-construct a model together as a class, showing how one instrument produces a sound. In part 6, they're going to model that individually for a different instrument. In part 7, then they're sharing their model with peers and making revisions to it. And then part 8 and 9, you're just putting all your ideas together on how things produce sound. So what we're figuring out in lesson 2 is that force on an object transfers energy to it, causing it to deform. When that happens, the object vibrates, and when it vibrates, it produces a sound. And that when things stop vibrating, then they stop producing a sound. I want to highlight just a couple key parts. So we navigate into the lesson, referring back to the anchor phenomena, our desire to try to figure out how things produce a sound. And then in part 2, we're investigating different sound sources. Students are going to move from station to station, making observations of each of these sound sources. So you're going to have them create an observation table to record both the sound source that they're exploring and their observations. And I don't give students too many directions on what observations to record. I mean, it could be things about what the object's doing when it's producing a sound. It could be regarding what has to happen in order for it to produce different volumes or different pitches. I just let them record observations, anything they notice. Give them about 2 to 3 minutes per station. And then you're going to watch in part 3 some slow motion videos of those sound sources producing sound, where they're going to record even more observations. And then in part 4, then they're going to share out their observations. And again, their observations could be about the force that was used to produce a sound. It could be about the vibration that they noticed, the loudness, the pitch that was produced, any of those. In part 5 and 6, then, we're going to take our observations and put together a model to show how something produces a sound. There's a handout for this that's just a whole bunch of boxes. The top half, we're going to complete together as a class. The bottom half, they're going to do individually. The top half, we'll start out by making a model of the drum. It's probably the easiest one to model. So there's one in the teacher's guide I reference, and while I'm referencing that, I'm just asking students, all right, what are some things, let's put together a model of what caused the drum to produce a sound. What parts would we have to include in our model? Well, we'd have to include the drum, the drumstick. So I just list the parts and start adding those to the model. And then what interactions did you notice between the parts? Well, the drumstick had to hit the drum. Okay, let's show that in our model. So we start putting those things together in our model. You'll also notice that there's like 5 different boxes across horizontally. That's going to show different time frames. So we're showing what happened before with the drum before it made a sound, what happened or before we hit it, what happened when we hit it, what happened like just after we hit it, what happened a while after we hit it. So those are just showing different time frames. So again, in part 5, you're putting together your class model together. And in part 6, the bottom half of the handout, you're going to have students model some other instrument. It could be a xylophone, guitar, tuning fork, just some other instrument that they saw or explored. They're going to then share that with a peer, get some feedback, revise it, and this would be a great thing to collect at the end of the day as a formative assessment. So where do we go from here? Next, we see in this lesson that all the musical instruments in the speaker vibrate when they produce a sound. That makes us wonder, do all objects produce a sound or vibrate when they produce a sound? Even something rigid like a tabletop, my tabletop can make a sound, but it doesn't seem to vibrate. So that's what we're going to investigate in the next lesson. Here's some things that you might want to keep in mind when you're teaching this lesson. First, in terms of the investigation, I found it helpful to set up, I guess, 10 total stations, 2 for each of the sound sources. So I had like 2 xylophone stations, 2 drum stations, 2 of every station. That just worked out good for me because then I ended up with, I don't know, 3 kids about for each station. They were efficiently able to move from station to station. Some of the instruments, the first time teaching this unit, I didn't have a guitar, so I had to borrow one from the band teacher. But since I just bought toy instruments, like toy ukulele works great, toy drums work great, so I would recommend doing that. If possible, have different size drums, different size tuning forks. That allows them to also explore and start thinking through what's causing different pitches to be produced. At the speaker station, you're going to need to play a song or a sound that has varied pitches. So again, they can start thinking through what's going on with the vibrations that not only produce different loudnesses, but also different pitches. In my room, we had to establish sound levels. Like in our building, we have voice levels when the kids are going through the hallways. In my room, we had to establish sound levels for playing these musical instruments. So that allowed level 1 and level 2, but levels 3 and level 4 were not allowed. It just got too loud in my room otherwise. In terms of the model, the consensus model, like I said, I have to use the teacher's guide. It just, I mean, I'm not like looking at it the whole time, but while students are sharing ideas, I'm modeling it, but then I'm referencing the teacher's guide just to make sure that I'm including all the parts and I'm not missing anything important. And I also found it helpful because their handout, I don't know, can be a bit confusing. I found it helpful to display their handout and make our class model on their handout. So I used either a DotCam or a smartboard so that I could be making the consensus model on their handout. It's just easier for them to follow. You could do the same thing on chart paper. I just found it easier for me. In terms of words, we earn, vibration, and deform, which you can add to the word wall in part 5 while you're constructing the class consensus model. And then words that are reinforced from the previous unit, if you did the contact forces unit, collision, energy, and force. There's only one poster that we make in this lesson, the class consensus model of how instruments make sound. You don't need to use that for future lessons, but I do reference it later on, especially in the next lesson. So that might be something worth noting. Might want to hang on to it at least for a bit. Well, hopefully your students enjoy this lesson as much as mine have in the past. As they're playing with musical instruments, they're starting to put together this connection between vibrations and sound. But does that mean all objects vibrate, even my tabletop, when it's producing sound? We'll find out in the next lesson. See you then.